Disclaimer, this is a non-political educational podcast. With that being said, let's begin.
Oh. That's it, I'm not going.
So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about, the hemline index theory. The length of skirts will foreshadow, if you will, the state of the economy. In the 1920s, we had flapper skirts, flapper dresses, and flapper girls. Everyone was jolly roaring 20s. This was a time where economic growth followed. Then we moved into the Great Depression in the 1930s, where there was economic decline. Long skirts were the hottest commodity. Then post-war in the 50s and 60s, hemlines rose. Maybe the most recent example that supports the hemline index theory, Y2K, which is the epitome of short skirts. And as you would guess, if you are listening carefully, a period of economic growth followed the Y2K era. We cannot say for certain that the correlation was directly caused by the economy. However, we can postulate why this may happen. For example, we can say that textiles will cost more during an economic boom, so in order to cut costs, designers will make shorter skirts. But also, less causal and more indirectly, we can say that money equals happiness, and happiness equals good vibe clothing. Nowadays, fast fashion and social media have not only made trends incredibly volatile, but they also allow trends to exist in parallel. Everything is trending at the same time. There's not one hemline that exists solely by itself. And for this reason, we can't really pinpoint a hemline to a time. But fashion is still definitely influenced by the economy because we have to pay for it. Unfortunately, this has led to a lot of people turning to fast fashion for more affordable clothing. The pandemic caused a global recession, and this coincided with a boom in fast fashion. Shein, I'm sure we've all heard of, but Shein, I believe, was the love child of TikTok and the pandemic, and rose in popularity due to people struggling economically during the pandemic. Whilst this may save you pennies, all this contributes to essentially killing the planet and everyone on it. The main problem being overconsumption of crap clothing. But surely there must be a sustainable, yet fashionable, yet cheap option. Let's talk about that. In 2024, I believe there are a few trends that were an expression of this. Let's go through them and I'll explain why I think they are a reflection of being poor, but also being conscious of the climate crisis and everything bad in the world. In 2024, we started buying bits that we could swap, interchange, add on and take away at our will. We used bows to accessorize our clothing and bows to accessorize everything. It was adding something small to an already complete outfit that would make the two outfits look very different to each other. This led on to the bag charm trend, where instead of buying bag after bag after bag when we get bored of it, we would just swap in and out our Hello Kitties or Cupid dolls or whatever crap we decided to hang off our bags. Instead of buying a new bag every time you got bored with it, you would just hang various combinations of dangly things off it instead. And another one is skirt over pants and the layering epidemic of 2024. And I think we can interpret this in different ways, actually, two different ways. The first way being, I want to show everyone everything in my wardrobe all at the same time because this cost buns. But maybe we could also interpret this as, what outfit can I make from what already exists in my wardrobe, where, okay, I would normally have two pieces of clothing, a pair of jeans and a skirt, to create two outfits, where now I can use that same pair of jeans and skirt to create three different outfits, one being jeans, one being skirt, and another being jeans and skirt at the same time. And if you were into the underwear trend, neither. So now let's move on to the main focus of this video. How in 2025 can I dress myself sustainably, cheaply, but also stylishly? Upcycling and repurposing clothing. This is a fantastic way of making old clothes cooler. I want you for a second to look at this jacket. It's a nice jacket, arguably a nice jacket. I would most certainly wear this jacket. However, once we get bored of this jacket, instead of chucking it away, what can we do to it to make it more interesting? What can we do to it to make it a whole new jacket without discarding, replacing, buying a new one? Allow me to present you with this jacket. Can you see what I did here? Lobster clasps, fireman clasps, whatever you want to call them, are possibly my favourite piece of hardware in the world ever, as we know it, to infinity and beyond. Hardware in general and bits of detail on shirts, clothing, pants is just the most exciting thing ever. Mason Margiela is a great representative of this concept. If you actually just look at Mason Margiela as a fashion brand, their motif of choice is showing the stitching of their label through the clothing. I'm not really sure how to explain that, but I'll show you in case you don't know a Mason Margiela motif, if you will. But this is very doable by the average Joe like myself. Tell me this is not just someone messing around on their mother's sewing machine, practicing their straight stitch. Sewing buttons to things is a great way of switching up what you already have. So for example, I'm sure we all have a pair of H&M trousers in our wardrobe. Whether you got them off Vinted or not is irrelevant. It's still a pair of H&M trousers and it's quite dull, but we're not going to chuck them away. Of course we're not. They're still dull and we can't be having dull in 2025. So how can we make these more exciting? We can swap the buttons in and out. I actually have a denim jacket in my wardrobe that has little star. In fact, hang on. Can you see that? The buttons have little stars on them. Unfortunately, I don't think H&M have the dedication to do that. Dedication putting it lightly. But we do. I take pride in my clothing, I take pride in my outfits, and I like doing that. So if I do actually like the fit, I like the comfiness, the coziness, the ease of these H&M trousers, but they're a bit dull, I can switch these up with a cool little button and it will instantly look cooler. Another thing that's quite popular at the moment, badges, pin badges. Let me tell you, at the moment, I wear a balaclava out and about. It is brass monkeys every day outside at the moment and I'm cold. However, I find wearing a balaclava quite menacing, so I'm in need of some kind of accessorizing option where I can let people know I'm not a threat. Well, physically anyway. Intellectually, on the other hand, I'm absolutely a threat and you should all know that. But aesthetically, physically, I am in no way a threat at all. So I've taken the liberty of customizing my own badges. Tell me how much you would pay me for these 2025 clothing line. Thing I wanted to talk about was modular clothing. This being the idea that clothing is assembled and deassembled into its various components. For example, you have a bodice, sleeves, a collar, and they're all detachable and attachable. The term modularity actually originated in computer science in the 1980s when discussing interchangeable / removable parts of a computer, which is very important to note because both my father and my brother are computer scientists and I believe it's important to find common interests. Anyway, there's actually nothing new in clothing, particularly in tech wear and sportswear. My father has a cycling jacket that you can remove the sleeves of. Any good pair of hiking trousers will have removable below knee sections so you can wade through the water or whatever. But these are more for performance rather than for economics or styleability. Fashionability. One brand that's doing this at the moment is Casper the Label, who make shirts using different panels of clothing. It's a sustainable solution. It means that we can create new outfits without having to buy whole new garments. We can just swap in and interchange different sections of that single piece. Windbreakers are cool one day, cool, I got you. Gilets are cool the next day, I still got you. We can also swap our panels with different varieties. Burgundy is cool one day, let me wear my burgundy sleeves. Brat green is cool the next day, let me wear my brat green sleeves, you know? Also, if you damage one part of the item, you don't have to fix the whole item, get rid of the whole item. You just have to fix or replace that single component of your shirt, skirt, pants, whatever. You can also reduce the number of washes by only washing the part of the item that's gotten dirty. Another thing that we've seen for quite a while is detachable collars, which I believe are seen as quite naff in general because they're seen as fake collars. Normally I would agree that they are pretty ugly. However, I enjoy the sentiment. We can take inspiration from this. So instead of looking up detachable collar, fake collar, when you're trying to find inspiration from this, we can look at inspiration from actual clothes that already exist as shirts. And again, we're finding inspiration here. Moving forward in 2025, this is what our Pinterest strategy should be. We are no longer finding outfits, we are finding inspiration. If I'm looking for a collar, I can use shirts that already exist that I like the collar of, that have an interesting collar, maybe extra buttons, maybe extra fastenings, some kind of interesting thing here. And I can use this to conceptualize a more sustainable future. That being, I'm going to detach that collar, swap it in and out with my collection of interesting collars. Even just customizing your collars would be quite interesting. So you already have a shirt and then you add something to the collar to make it slightly more interesting. And I guess you can also do this with the cuffs, using cuff links or little buttons on the cuffs. My mum actually has a tub of buttons downstairs somewhere. You can interchange buttons or swap buttons or even have two mismatching buttons on each arm if you have exciting buttons that you want to show off. Buttons are great actually because they're a collectible item that is also functional. So rather than collecting your Sunny Angels, which don't really have much of a function, maybe we might want to start collecting buttons and just swap them in and out on all of our clothing every now and then. I actually recently bought a trench coat off of Vinted for £5, but some of the buttons are missing, so I will need to sew buttons onto them at some point. I'll get around to it. Next thing on my list is adjustable fashion. I've spoken so many times that I love cinch back waists on jeans, but this is actually a very sustainable option. It will allow clothing lines to create less variations of clothing. So instead of having XXX small and XXX large, you have small, medium, large, and that's it. It will mean that there's not leftover clothing from the two extremes, that people aren't buying quite as much because they can just adjust the small, medium, large to fit a range of sizes. I think that's a great idea, actually. Cinching at the waist in jeans, cuffs, various pulleys and strings attached to create multiple sizes out of one item of clothing in order to reduce the amount of clothing needed to be bought and also left over when no one buys it. Next thing on my list, wearing clothing in different ways. Again, let me draw your attention to a button. If you have buttons in different places, if the button would normally attach to the hole here, you can instead attach the button to the hole down here, and it would create a different looking piece. One example is this Alexander McQueen top, which is absolutely glorious. You can just attach the flaps in whatever way you so wish on the day. Also having zips, ruching, different ways to fasten things, even just zipping, unzipping, and having that double zip where you half zip up and half zip down. That's already 3 combinations of one item. Wearing clothes backwards is another one. Recently, I've become aware of the brand Gina Corriere, who repurposes shirts and sweaters into skirts. This is a great, sustainable, cheap option. The idea being we are using one item of clothing that would traditionally only be used as a sweater or a shirt as a different garment, a skirt also. I think it's important to note that we don't need to say this means we can only have one shirt in our wardrobe that we use for a shirt, a jumper, a skirt, trousers, socks, everything. We can still have multiple iterations of different garments. However, it just means that we can repurpose what we have in different ways and create more combinations from the things we already have. So don't go thinking you have to chuck everything away so that you only have one item of clothing in your wardrobe. We're not doing that over here. It's just to give you more ideas with what you have in your wardrobe already. Another thing that I actually predicted in my autumn trends way back in 2024, that long time ago, can hardly remember it, was socks over shoes.
I like putting socks on top of my shoes to change up the shoes I already own. And today I had these like black Nike socks. Always looks so different and also so refreshing because you get a new look from just stuff you have in your closet.
Another thing being shoe on shoe. I guess customizing your shoe or adding variation to the shoes that you already own. For example, the Vibram portable sole, you can fasten this to a shoe that wouldn't traditionally have grip or survive the winter, wet, slippy, cold. You can attach the Vibram sole to this and suddenly you've got the shoe that you already own that might not keep you upright during a snowstorm can now stop you from falling over. Again, it's adjustable, so it will fit your shoe, whatever shoe size you are. Fantastic idea. That is everything I have for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope that there are plenty of ideas in this video, and I hope in 2025 I will bring some of those forward. So much love forever and always. Have the best 2025 ever. See you very incredibly soon. Bye.